Hello. Okay, so there are a couple energetic strands that are weaving in, and I just closed my eyes for a moment before I pushed record, and I literally saw like an ultraviolet thread. It was not a straight line though, so it had like curvature, loops. I'm feeling this like almost, for lack of a better word, a cursor or some sort of like point that's like moving through this thread as if like it's anchoring or specifying specific like nodal points, if you will. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of tune in a little bit deeper and see what comes through. An unexpected blackout happened where I am tonight, and it reminded me of a transmission that I recorded called Blackout. So there could be like connection points through that transmission as well, if you feel pulled to it in some way. I keep feeling this like sort of maybe not quite a tingling sensation, but like just sort of some sort of sensation in the throat, particularly on the left side. Okay, I wanted to just kind of come on and do a more like a mini transmission, and a theme that has been coming up pretty strongly the last few days or so is the observer. The word observer, witnessing, and absorbing. And essentially like I just got really hot as I said that, like a wave of heat just sort of like rolled through my body. It's actually still rolling. Nighttime can be significant in some way. I just heard a song pop in my head. They only come out at night, but I can't remember the rest of the song. It might be Hall & Oates, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Also, temperature changes. Like I felt that heat, and then I was reminded of like being extremely cold. This is very funny. I haven't thought about this in so long. Years ago, a friend of mine, we all shared some mushroom tea. This is a very long time ago. And my friend, who was like not someone who usually speaks this way, she just felt so cold, and she kept saying like, I feel cold on the inside, like it's winter inside of me. I don't know why I kept thinking about that, but that is the sensation that I felt. And I'm seeing like tree branches, trees, and I'm hearing neurons. Okay, so the observer and witnessing instead of absorbing. Since the phrase that I sort of birthed through this podcast on Spotify that I'm sort of starting, there's a couple episodes. It's just from YouTube, but I'm going to make the third episode. I'm going to try and do it a little bit differently than I've been doing, so it's taking a little bit longer than I planned to release the next episode, but the name that came through for that podcast, Spiral Gnosis, the middle path, and there's something about that like coming through, and I was looking up for some reason, and my eyes almost just felt like they were like, you know when you look up and it's windy and your eyes start to like shut because you cannot keep them open, like that's the sensation that just started to happen. I hit pause and it happened to be 50500. Excuse me. And I just saw those similar numbers, zeros, fives. I just signed up for a Beehive, the website. It's like a newsletter thing. I don't really know much about it, but I kept getting signs and synchronicities to start one. So I literally just signed up in the same numbers. They give you like a email or a text confirmation code, and it was like very similar numbers. So it's like I felt like there was such vast energy coming in, and now all of a sudden it just feels like I'm feeling a lot, but I'm not saying as much as I thought I would be, at least not yet. So yeah, there seems to be this like, again, this observer sort of, when people say like, oh, you wear a lot of hats, like a one man show or one man business, it's like your observer hat is being put on, or maybe that's something you've been noticing about yourself recently, like, oh, maybe you have been observing a bit more than reacting in certain situations. And people who, identify as like extremely sensitive or empathic, there may be this sort of switch that has happened where you feel like maybe this, so it will come through in different ways for different people, but you may go through some sort of period, or maybe you're going through this where you feel like, oh, maybe you utilize your empathic skills or abilities as some sort of like map, like maybe it's something you do in your in your work or offerings, or maybe it's just the way they're used to perceiving the world, and you may feel like, whoa, like I know I'm recapping, and I have gone through this myself where I am not feeling things the way I used to feel them. And I'm having this memory from years ago of someone who I heard her have an interview somewhere. I don't know who she was. I don't remember where it was. This was like a very long time ago. And she was saying like she used to have these certain abilities. I can't remember if it was empathic or psychic, something. And they just like stopped. And she took it as like a punishment, or like that she wasn't meant to use that or something like this. But now that I've been through many layers of these type of experiences, in like Carl Jung's work, Jungian psychology, I know that there's a lot of talk about like once the empathic state starts to be the observer versus the absorber, some people call it like the empowered empath, like there's, these different phrases and terminology. But yeah, also in Gnosis, like the Sophia embodiment, where like I was just kind of tuning in this energy, like this, it's almost like it's funny, when I said that, my chest got so hot again. I'm being shown Kundalini being connected to this as well, and it's like this integration of the next octave of consciousness from wherever you were. I'm being shown like the multidimensional coordinates, and my computer just went black, so yeah, that blackness, like if you feel like you're like quote losing something, or if you're in that stage where you feel like you've been punished, or like you're not having the same experiences that you were, this really, especially if you're finding this feels like you are actually like recalibrating, being like the observer. When they say like the observer, I just heard the word interface and user. It's like when you become the observer and the experiencer, there's like this integration happening where, yeah, it's like the next octave. So things may feel, it's like I'm seeing someone looking on 4th of July for fireworks, and they don't see any fireworks, and they think something is wrong, I don't know why I was seeing that specifically, but so you may be expecting like fireworks, but this feels like it's an internal process. Some of you may already be like in this knowing, and perhaps this may just be like oh, well, there's another person out there or more people out there going through this as well, or just some sort of confirmation. I don't love how that fireworks analogy came through because I'm not sure that it makes sense, but that's what I was seeing. And then when you least expect it, it's like, I don't know, on July 7th, you see fireworks and you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, but here's fireworks, it's kind of like that. It's not to say you'll never experience fireworks again, but this sort of like, this phase of evolution is a bit more balanced. Like there's an equilibrium. So you may not, and this is not to say you don't have emotion or reactions or anything like that, but there is just this, I'm being shown like the emerald orders coming through, and my left middle finger, which is the etheric element for me, is like pinging, but lower on the finger. I've been uploading a lot of my notes and like sort of, you want to call it like raw transmissions, where like automatic writing essentially into Gemini, so I can keep the original and then have like organized bullet points come back to me. And one of the things that I was just drawn to look at, I use the phrase key code a lot, so it broke down one of the bullet points as a key code, essentially tuning into the word absorbing and allowing that to be like when you let someone else's quote, if you want to call it a projection or fear-based pattern, etc., enter into your field, especially when you can feel it like physically in some way. So that's like the absorbing, when you're like literally absorbing it. And then of course when you're observing, the example that came through was watching the storm through the windshield without letting the rain inside. And I had 3 different experiences this week with it was the same person and the same topic, and I both times, like, I think I already used this as an example in a different transmission, but it's coming through again. Like I just kind of like smiled and chose not to engage, and it happened twice. And then the third time I was like, okay, maybe I want to try and have this conversation, and it didn't go perfectly at all. And I could feel my face just like instant heat. Like my face was so hot, like almost instantly. And I knew, okay, time to walk away. And I said, thank you so much for like having this conversation. And then I just walked away. Because, my body was like instantly overheating. So I'm feeling the heat right now as I tap into that. So I'm not saying to like, it's not about like ignoring, or just like pretending things don't exist, but like I could feel myself starting to absorb that, and I chose to prioritize my internal system. I still said thank you. I already voiced multiple times I didn't want to have this conversation, so because it's like an ongoing thing that I just don't feel like the person and I are going to see eye to eye. And it's about my life. So there's something like that coming through of like how you handle certain things and really somatically like what is going on, and this is just an example, of course. Also, I woke up this morning, sometimes like from my dreams, I will like wake up saying something, like singing a song or a phrase or something. And today I woke up saying, Konnichiwa, Omaha, I am. And I was like, what is that? So I know Konnichiwa, I hope I'm saying that correctly, I believe is like hello or like a greeting in Japanese. Omaha's in Nebraska, or like steaks, Omaha steaks, and like I am, right? Like I am that I am. So for some reason that came through and it felt relevant. I'm not exactly sure why, but I figured I would just share that because it was such an unlikely pair of words to come together. But yeah, the phrase I am that I am, the I am essence, the I am essence. Yeah, that's been coming up a lot the last few days again. So it feels like in this phase, there may be a deeper I am pulse, like a in the phrase know thyself, it's like know thyself. Like you may be really knowing thyself in a deeper way right now, or something that's coming in for you. Also, this what looked like a Vesca Pisces, I talked about this before, was appearing in my mind's eye for like a day or two, and then there was a third circle that joined. So it was like a triple Venn diagram. And I did just try to recreate what I was seeing the best I could. Of course, it's not the exact replica, but I just tried to capture the essence. And I posted it on the YouTube post area as well as on Instagram. But like that day or the next day, I recorded for Patreon again, which I really missed. I love recording for Patreon. And it was through the Pearlescent Presence Portal launch transmission on YouTube. And then I did like a deeper dive on Patreon, and I felt guided to pull back up the Ascension Glossary because it's been a while since I tapped into it. And the exact link that I chose had the exact like triple Venn diagram that I was seeing in my mind's eye for like the day before, that morning, something like that. And I share that because what came through, it was supposed to be like an artistic depiction of the 15 cosmic suns, I believe is what it came through, SUNS. And there's been a lot of energy coming through, like the Ra, R-A, Ra, as well as the, like the solar, in like anthroposophy, I believe they call it like the spiritual sun or the sun hierarchy. So in Keylontic science, it's coming through as like the Aquiline sun codes, at least the way it comes through for me. And then the Eukatharista Body, or the flame body activation. And I did just want to share a little bit about that because I usually tap more into this on Patreon, but I just felt a little bit guided to read a bit more into this. And what is the date? It's 9:11 on the clock. You may be seeing 911. I was saying that I was feeling the emerald order and then also like tree branches. And at the bottom of this page, I was just drawn to a sentence that talks about the emerald tree of life. So there's that marrying, because I was feeling that, the marrying of those. And also, I just had this link up on my computer, but I have not read any of it. And I clicked on it like yesterday, and I just haven't looked at it. And it says Return of the Emerald Order as well. So I was already tapping into that energy and feeling that, and it's literally right. It's been on this link this whole time. So I love when those confirmations always happen, especially when I'm tuned in on Patreon. So I just wanted to like share a little bit about that because, I just felt guided to. And the idea, so right before, I love this, in one of the last Patreons, like maybe a month ago, I was talking a lot about the Amorier, the cosmic Amorier shield is what it says here, but I didn't realize that it was also on this page, which that was literally the last energetic strand or thread I was tapping into. So I love that they're coming through together now. And if you're not familiar with some of this terminology, and you feel like, again, that somatic sort of response in some way, or like an emotional response, then I'm hearing you can just sort of invite yourself to receive whatever your own like consciousness codes sort of ping for you, and try not to worry so much about like, what does this all mean in the moment? And synchronistically, things will unfold as you feel guided to like learn more. Of course, like I said, I go much deeper on Patreon. So if that's something that you're really drawn to, feel free to look into that. But I wanted to just, I'm going to read just like the first paragraph, and then I will probably close this transmission. And just a little like invitation. I haven't done this collectively in a while. For the next 24 to 48 hours, I'm inviting in, if you want to call it like a spiral crystalline liquid light personal auric field tune-up or recalibration, especially when you sleep or when you're in like a receiving mode. And the crystalline frequencies coming through are very much like through the mother arc, like turquoise, silvers, really, really baby hues of pinks, like a coppery rose gold sort of solar frequency. But whatever comes through for you is perfect, but feel free to receive that like whenever you feel the call. But it will be really potent from whenever you hear this in the next 24 to 48 hours. And if this is something that you've been feeling already, just know, like, of course, just like this is talking about, that time is not necessarily linear. So you may have already been having some of these experiences. Okay. So the cosmic clock from the first God world creation is synchronizing with the universal time matrix in order to begin the next stage of planetary ascension that awakens the Eukatharistic, they call it here the Eucharistic spiritual body flame codes within the angelic human DNA. And I talk a lot about the angelic human DNA throughout content that I've been creating. And of course, there are so many layers and perspectives on this. So this is more of like what is coming through from the lens and perspective that I've been sort of cultivating for a very long time. But you know, how it may come through for you may be a bit of a different angle or lens. So there is that sort of individual imprint that can be very important as we talk about these kinds of things, in my opinion, anyway. Okay, so thus the cosmic clock Ruche initiation is also considered the full spectrum planetary Eucharistic activation because it opens and activates a series of density locks and time codes being directed as a result of the return of the Emerald Order. So when I first opened up this, I had no idea I was going to be talking about this, but when I was seeing that thread and those like different nodal points or code, like different space-time codes, like that's really what I was feeling. Then I saw the Emerald Order in the tree, so that happens quite a bit where I'll be shown these different pieces and then they kind of weave together through either going deeper within the energy. Sometimes if I'm guided to pull up a reference or a tool, like this just happened with Maya Nartumid's work. I was doing the same thing and then I was guided to look at one of her Substack newsletters, and it was like basically all of these different nodal points I was being shown. And something that I really love to do is invite the somatic connection and see where you feel that, within your own being. If at all, it could come through in different ways for you. If it's not physically in the body, maybe it's like you're very visual and you create things and then later on they start to show up in different ways, or it could be multiple mediums that this comes through for you. But I'm remembering actually right before I tuned into, either right around the same time or right before I was tuning in more deeply to the Morier flame, which had come through before, but it's coming through again, really through like the high heart, the thymus, the unconditional love template. I kept seeing locks, like LOCKS, locks, and like locks unlocking. And I was like, what is this? And now it's coming through, that activating a series of density locks and time codes being directed as the result, of the return of the Emerald Order. And I spoke recently in a transmission about a dream I had where there was this like green plasma, like the aurora borealis, essentially, like that sort of very lit green, almost like bioluminescence, coming through all at almost the same exact time. So I saw that in my dream state, and it came through my father's lineage, which is very surprising to me. Like very surprising from a 3D perspective. I would have never guessed that, but that's the way it came through. And of course, on a larger scale, it could be just representing like the masculine energy, and it just came through something maybe familiar to me in my dream state. But either way, it did feel connected also through my father's lineage, and really I just felt like a halt. Like that feels like a good place to stop, actually. There's so much though coming through. So oh yeah, aquamarine is coming through very strongly as well. And I'm going to read the Emerald Tree of Life sentence, and then I will close this out. The Emerald Tree of Life merges into the cosmic clock Templar with the newly birthed emerald suns sourced from the core heart spirals of aquamarine and emerald rays flowing from the first, what they call this the first God world creation. I don't mean God in the sense of, the dogmatic aspect. The magnitude of this cosmic Emerald Order Ascension event to awaken the planetary Eukatharista is hard for our minds to fathom. Right, so if we're trying to come at this from just like purely mental dissection, then it's probably just going to feel like a lot of words that feel and look to be overly technical. I know, or nonsensical. Like when I first started tapping into Keylontic science and some of these more higher ascension mechanics, I was just like, I kept feeling things, and I was being shown certain words before I even researched certain phrases, certain lineages, and etc. So I already was kind of being introduced to this before I found the teachings, and I honestly thought I was going crazy for a really long time. And even sharing it now, like I've gotten more comfortable sharing it on Patreon because, to be frank, I have I don't know that really many people listen to it, and sharing it on YouTube feels like honestly a lot more vulnerable for me. But here we are. I always try to trust the guidance that comes through, and this is what I'm being guided to go. So yeah, so that's just a little taste of stuff that I do over on Patreon, and that is all. Thank you very much.